Hi everybody, welcome to Goat Sports Performance. You should know by now, my name's Dr. Tim Backhurst, and this topic is about controlling emotions. It's a big one. There's a lot of things to cover in here because we see it all the time. Players who can't control their emotions, and players who maybe just seem a bit flat and don't have any emotions and need some. We all have this zone where we just play amazing, where we compete and everything just works for us, and we have to find that zone. And sometimes our opponents will try to take us out of that zone or make sure we never get in that zone in the first place. Does it affect performances? Absolutely yes. I don't know why I just shook my head. Absolutely yes. Okay, so what I want to do is take you through a little bit of the theory behind how this works and then go into, well, actually, how do you control those emotions? What can you do? All right, so here we go. The first thing I want to talk to you about is a little bit about our attention span. And I'm using golf here as an example. Any sport will do. You can apply it to your sport. But when we actually compete, we actually attend or focus on a variety of things. That includes ourselves, how we're feeling, what's going on in our body, how confident we are, whether we're tired, those kinds of things. Our opponent, maybe how they're acting, whether they look tired, whether you can hear them breathing hard, things like that. Our environment, are there situations where we need to be aware of that are unsafe or might provide an advantage if we can get the ball in that place, or in this case, golf, the weather might be an environmental factor that needs to be considered. There's other variables too that we may not think about, but our coach who might be there can be something we attend to or not attend to. Speaking of not attending to, maybe it's the crowd. Maybe we need to learn to shut them out and not listen to them or let them affect us. So again, a variety of things that really affect what we focus on when we compete. So these are kind of called cues. Cues are things which we focus on, and they can be relevant or they can be irrelevant. So in the case of, we'll stick with golf here. In the case of golf, we may have the weather as a factor. We may have the type of grass we're on. We may have the club choice. We may have how far you have to hit it. You may have what score we're at and what we need to achieve in order to be successful. All these things you can see there are inside that white half triangle. Those are all things that we need to attend to. But then there's other things that we could attend to, but we shouldn't. That may be the photographer in the crowd. That may be somebody talking on the sideline. That may be somebody who's waving that just distracts you for a minute. It could be other things. Boy, I'm really hungry. I wonder what we're going to have for supper. Or, man, I've really got to sort out that issue with my boyfriend or girlfriend, or whatever it is. Those things are relevant cues for that point in time. And so they go outside that white triangle. So the reason I'm telling you this is because that white triangle, those lines move. They either get wider or they get narrower, depending on your scenario. And we're going to get to that here in a minute. So the keys here are, you need to recognize what you focus on when you compete. Do you get distracted by the crowd? Some people definitely do. You can see it. Some people get into conversations with the crowd. Is that really helping you focus? Or is it a case of, no, I really zone in, but maybe I zone in on too few things. Maybe I focus on my footwork, but then I forget all the other stuff that's going on. Or maybe I focus on hitting the ball really hard, but then I forget that I don't really need to in this situation. So I need to recognize what I attend to. And then once I recognize what I am attending to in that moment, I need to then refocus it so that I'm attending to the right things. Now, why does this all have to do, or what does this all have to do with emotional control? Well, I'm getting to that here in a second. You see, we have something in our bodies or in our minds called arousal, and our arousal levels, how excited or relaxed we are, affects what we attend to. And I'm going to come back to that again in a second. But we have this continuum. So if I can explain really quickly here, we have this continuum, okay, that on one side here we have complete excitement, just amped up to the max, just revving to go. And then on this side here, we have this kind of complete relaxation. I could almost just fall asleep. So all of that in between is our arousal levels. Most of us typically probably fall down here during typical days, right? I'm right down here, pretty relaxed, maybe a little bit amped up because I'm talking to a camera and I know what I'm doing here for everybody watching. So I might be a little higher than normal, but generally I'm pretty relaxed. But when I go compete, suddenly my arousal levels go up because I like competition. I like competing against people, testing myself. So I'm up here. But sometimes I may go too far up here where I'm just out of control because maybe something happened to me. Maybe an opponent annoyed me and it just kind of set me off. Or maybe I've got something going on in my life that's really affecting the way I compete, and I'm just over the top. Point being, we all fit on this scale somewhere, and we move along the scale depending on how we're feeling, what's going on, what the situation is. Also recognize that we all have a perfect zone for us when we compete. So I'm going to come back to that in a second. So let's go back to where we were. We've got this arousal state of complete relaxation, and then we've got this situation where we're just all the way up there, right? We're just wired. Now, how does this affect attention? Let's go back and understand that arousal, how aroused we are, affects our attention. So if I can go back to this little section here, we've got this diagram, right? We've got this perfect little zone where I'm focusing on everything I need to. All my little black X's in there are things that are important to me, my weather conditions, my wind, and all that stuff. But what if my arousal levels are too high? Suddenly, that triangle will narrow. My attention narrows on a few things. And so because of that, I cut some things out. So I don't know what might cause me for my arousal levels to change in a game of golf. Again, each sport is different. But let's say I'm playing an opponent and my opponent, calls me weak. I can't hit it very far, my opponent tells me. I don't like that. So my arousal levels start to go up a little bit. I'm going to show him, right? So instead of focusing on the wind and all these things, maybe I just focus on my power and I forget some of my technique things or some of the variables that I need to think about. As a consequence, maybe I don't catch the wind. So I power that ball, but then the wind catches it and takes it left instead of down the middle because I missed it. So that's how arousal can affect attention. It narrows your attention. The flip side, maybe I'm too relaxed. If I'm too relaxed, now my triangle really widens up. And so I start to add in those things. That photographer that was in the crowd, I notice them. Or I start thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow. All those things come into my attention. Well, guess what? If all of those things are in my attention, my brain cannot focus on all of them, which means I may miss something, again, relevant. So because I'm thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow, I miss that wind speed because I wasn't thinking about that when I should be. So all of these things they're connected. This is a brain. It works together. We can't separate everything like we'd like to. It doesn't all fit cute and proper the way it's supposed to. So understand that your arousal affects your attention. And this is why arousal affects performance, because if we miss things in our attention span, then we make mistakes, and then we perform worse. We perform poorly. So we need to figure out, and you watching need to figure out, when do I compete best? At what level should my arousal levels be? Should they be really high or should they be really low? Do I tend to play too high and make those mistakes in judgment? Or do I not play, or do I not compete with my arousal levels high enough? I'm too relaxed and therefore I make mistakes. That's something you have to decide for yourself. And again, think of that scale. Think back to situations that you've had where you've competed. When did you compete at your best? When were you zoned in? And by zoned in, you may have heard of stories of people who talk about being quote unquote in the zone. And actually, that's a sports psych term. And it comes from this idea, the eyes off, the individual zone of optimal functioning. What this means is that where we perform our best is individual. My arousal levels, where I perform best, will be different to yours. And we have to find that zone, that point where we get dialed in and everything starts to work. When we find that, we need to then remember that and try and replicate that by either getting in or staying in the zone that we're at, that ideal state. So how do we get in and stay in that zone? Well, that's the tricky part. If I had a magic answer, I would be very, very famous and rich, because then everybody would be performing at their optimal level. But there's a few theories that kind of explain this arousal and being in and staying in the zone. Okay, and I want to show you the three theories that have really come out about arousal. But I want you to also look at this picture, and I put this picture in there on purpose because you got these people in the red and blue helmets, and they're having a great time and being all excited and pumped up and working really hard. But you see the guy in the back, he's the guide. And so if you think about the arousal levels, well, maybe the guys in front need to be working really hard and just don't really need to be attending to too much because they're just doing what they're told. But the guy in the back, in the white, he needs to be focusing on a lot more things than the people in the raft in front of him, because he's the guide. He's the one making the decisions. So he's looking at currents, movement, water, position of the people in the boat, all these things. So imagine if his arousal levels are super high. Chances are he's going to miss something. If he misses something, problems for the boat. So again, you can see how different positions sometimes in sports can affect your arousal levels. You need to have different arousal levels for different positions. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about these theories. Now, the drive theory is it's pretty basic, and this came out quite a while ago. And essentially, what the drive theory is saying is, look, the higher your arousal levels, the better you perform. It's that simple. Get yourself amped up. The more amped up you get, the better you perform. And then you feel, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because we just talked about this guide who, if he gets all wound up, he's going to miss something and make a mistake. And so the drive theory kind of went through this isn't a great theory. Next up came the inverted U theory. Inverted U looks like an umbrella, and it looks like this. Okay? And so what it said was, you need kind of medium arousal levels. Performance will be best when you have medium arousal levels. If you go too far, then performance drops off. And it's called the inverted U theory because it looks like an upside down U. But this last one I want to go to, is the catastrophe theory. And this is the one that seems to hold true. And the person who actually came up with this is a former professor of mine. So that's kind of cool for me to share this with you. But it looks like this. It's less cute, right? It's not a straight line. It's not an inverted U. But what it says is this. As your arousal levels go up, it looks like an inverted U. Your performance goes up. But if your arousal levels go too high, catastrophe happens and your performance drops off dramatically. It's not a gradual decline in performance. It's a bam, performance drops off. And so how does this work in practice? Or think about ways that this has happened to you. And the classic example I can give you is in soccer, okay? Somebody's playing in soccer. Let's say I'm playing. I'm playing in soccer. I've got the ball. I'm running down the field. Somebody comes in and just crushes me from behind, okay? What happens? Bam, I go down. Referee doesn't call a foul. So I'm just, are you kidding me? No. Are you serious? What's happening to my arousal levels? They're going up, right? So what then do I do but turn around? I'm going to get that guy back, right? I'm going to tackle him. And so then I chase him. He's got the ball. I chase him. Bam, I tackle him. Of course, I don't hit a clean tackle. I take him out. He rolls way too many times. Referee comes up. Bam, red card. I'm done. or yellow card, but probably red card, because I retaliated. Why did I retaliate? My arousal levels went up, my focus, I forgot about the game and playing strategically and smart and all that stuff. No, I'm going to get that guy back. So I went and got him back. But what happened? Catastrophe. What happened to my performance? Bam. Why? Because I got a red card. I'm not even playing anymore. Okay, the red card's extreme, but we can also apply this in other sports too. Whatever you want to do it. Tennis, racquetball, badminton, field hockey, everything. When our arousal levels get too high, we make a series of mistakes very quickly, and it takes time for our arousal levels to rebound and get to a level that makes us optimum. And so usually what will happen is we will make a mistake, our arousal levels will get too high, or we don't make a mistake, but maybe somebody says something to us or something annoys us, our arousal levels get too high, and then we make a series of mistakes. That could just be bad shots, it could be just missing things. Remember the attention? It's gotten narrow, so now we're missing all kinds of things and we're making all kinds of mistakes. Then we need to, oh my goodness, my arousal levels, I went over the top, my performance has plummeted, I need to get my arousal levels to where they need to be again. So that's catastrophe theory. Okay, just look at it again one more time. Performance goes up, something happens, arousal levels go too high, bam, performance drops very rapidly. Okay, so how do we then control these emotions, all right? We have people maybe talk smack to us, talk trash to us, affect us. Maybe it's a bad call by a referee where we just disagree with it, and we just make the stupid mistake, and then from the stupid mistake we make more. We need to learn to control our emotions. So the first thing you need to do is recognize when your emotions are not where they're supposed to be. We need to redress. We need to fix it. So first off, recognize, oh, whoa, I'm way too amped up, or I'm playing way too relaxed here. I'm way too calm for this situation. I need to get myself up. I need to do something about it. That's the redress word that I'm using here. So we do two things. We either relax or rev up. Relax, my emotions are too high. My arousal levels are too high. I need to learn to relax them and control them and bring them back down to a better level. Or I need to bring them up. I'm playing too slow. I'm playing too relaxed. I'm playing too calm. I need to get myself moving, motivated, increasing my arousal. And then the last thing is to respond to that. You know what you need to do, right? I've recognized it. I need to do something about it. I need to relax or rev up, depending on the situation. Now I need to actually do it. Now the responding thing is tricky, and it's not something that I can just give you in a sheet or a slide. It takes training. It takes practice, and that can be anxiety control or arousal level control through breathing or relaxation techniques, or it can be imagery that allows you to calm down or bring yourself back up. It can be the use of cue words, for example, that allow you to bring yourself up to that level. It's not something where I can just go, oh yeah, here's the secret, just go do this. Doesn't work like that. It's very individual specific. All of you are unique. You all compete at your best at different levels, and part of what I do with my clients is finding those levels and training clients to compete in those levels. Recognize that, again, let's go back to that last slide, but recognize where you're at, recognize you need to do something about it, relax or rev up, then respond. The last thing that you might want to think about, of course, is in many sports there's timeouts and situations like that. It's a great time to take a timeout and just get rid of whatever it is that's going on, whether it's I need to go up or down, as opposed to trying to do it during the middle of the match. There's so many sports with timeouts that allow you to just change that momentum, whether it's you're too high or too low. So it's a long discussion. I hope you take something from it, and of course feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks so much for watching.